So now we look into money laundering. Yeah, money laundering is not often to be tested in the exam. Not so often. But when they test, this will usually comes with 6 to 8 marks requirement. Now, a few things that we need to go through for money laundering. Okay, let's begin with the first part, definition. Money laundering is a process by which criminals attempt to conceal through origin. Okay, let me just highlight the important keywords we do. Process to conceal through origin and ownership of the proceed of criminal activities. This is the first part that you need to remember. Yeah. Hiding where the money actually comes from. Those are dirty monies. And these dirty monies will be transferred and transformed so that it appears to have come from a legitimate source. So we have 2 and 3. If a question tests you about money laundering, make sure you write these 3 bits of the definitions. Okay, because if you want to memorize the whole sentence, it might be a bit too long for you. But these keywords must be there. Okay. Conceal is a process to conceal true origin of the illegal funds so that the funds will be transferred and transformed. Eventually, it looks like it comes from a legitimate source. Okay. So we just run through the definitions. Now, I want to do a little bit of introduction for house rules. Normally, in every lesson, I will have 2 short breaks. Because the hours for our class is quite long. We have 3.5 hours from 6:30 to 10, and we will have our first break at 7:45 for 15 minutes. 7:45 until 8 o'clock will be the first break. So now you can enjoy a 15 minutes break. Then later, when it comes to 9 o'clock, yeah, another 1 hour lesson. 1 hour at 9 o'clock, we will have another short toilet break, uh, probably 10 minutes. Okay, so that 9:10 we will continue until the end of our lessons. Now, this will be done every class, and once the class is completed, the recorded sessions will be uploaded, yeah, to the portal, and all the materials that we use during the class will be uploaded as well. Yeah. So now we can go for a short break and we continue later. Yeah, we have just done with the definitions. Okay, we will continue looking into money laundering. After the definition, we now see the 3 stages of money laundering. As you know, those dirty funds that come from bribery and come from whatever corruptions, right, or tax evasion. All these are money laundering offenses. Yeah, here are some indicators in the notes that you may go through. At some indicators such as individuals um, own assets that is something too luxury, yeah, compared to his or her own salaries and etc. Okay, those are the things that some indicators that someone might be involved in money laundering. Okay, we are looking into 3 stages of money laundering. Okay, this will be an area that I want you to study for exam purposes. All right. So I put a star here means to say it is important for exam purposes. If they ask you a question in money laundering, definitely the 3 stages of money laundering is something that examiner would like to test you. All right. First of all, placement. Placement is the process where the illegal funds are introduced into the financial systems. Please underline this. Illegal funds are being placed into the financial systems. So why people will do this? Okay, this is the very first stage of money laundering. What is the objective? Because simply the criminals wants to introduce the illegal funds or dirty money into the financial systems. How? Okay. Set up a cash intensive business and introduce illegal funds as capsules. That could be the way a placement can be done. For example, we receive 10 million of the dirty money through bribery. Okay. Yeah. So let's say I receive a bribe of 10 million ringgit, 10 million dollar lah. If I receive this money, can I bank into the bank and then I use it? Definitely, yeah, I will be going to jail. So if let's say someone has dirty money, they will need the expert to clean the dirty money for them and how the process looks like. Just imagine if I have 50 restaurants, yeah, I have 50 restaurants, and this 10 million funds divided by 50 restaurants, so each restaurant will need to clean 200,000 for the dirty money. So to include 200,000 as a cash sales, let's say operate every day for the restaurant, yeah, which operate every day. Let's say I put it to 1 month period for 30 days only. So one day I will need to introduce around 6 to 7,000 of the cash sales. Now for a restaurant, if the restaurant is big enough, right? I think that 6 to 7,000 is not a very big amount for the restaurant. We can have this sales volume, yeah. Some of the restaurants even up to 15 to 20,000 on a single day, yeah, if their customers are good enough. So just introduce 6 to 7,000 cash as a cash sales to one restaurant for one day is not a very big deal. Now, maybe you think that this amount is too much, then we don't divide by 30. We divide by 90. Let's say I use 3 months to wash this dirty money. So every day I will introduce 2 to 3,000 in one restaurant for all the 50 restaurants. So within 3 months, I can wash $10 million of the dirty money. So this could be a way to put the dirty money into the business. Yeah. So this could be possible. Now, the one who get the dirty money may not be the one who actually run the business for 50 restaurants. So maybe some businessmen are somehow connected, yeah, to a person who has dirty money, who are running illegal activities. So they might be cooperate to each other and use the business source to introduce the cash sales into the business. So then the dirty money will be flow into the business. Now then they will make profit, they will show profits in the accounts, they will pay for the taxes, then eventually they will deem that this dirty money is actually earned from the legitimate source of business. So placement is the first step. Now, I'm not teaching you how to do money laundering. I'm just showing you that could be a possible way. Yeah, one of the possible way to place the dirty money into the financial systems. Next step, layering. Layering is the second step. Okay? Second step in money laundering. If the dirty money has been placed into the financial systems, and then the owner just treat this amount as his own money, he will get caught because he didn't do layering. Now, layering is one of the most important process among the three, where it will involve creating a series of transactions so that the original source of funds become very difficult to trace. They must transfer the money to someone else. They cannot keep the money directly. Now, what does it mean by this? Let's say I have one restaurant. You see my restaurant, nobody visit one, just a few customers. But I report daily sales up to 10,000. Will you suspect something is wrong? Then you check my accounts. I only have sales. I don't have purchases because no customer come and eat. What I just put the sales as mine. I mean the dirty money as my sales. You can see my revenue very high, but there is no purchases. It doesn't make sense. So I must pretend to have some purchases in order to achieve this level of sales. So even though no customers, I have to show purchases for the business. 10,000 sales, my purchases maybe up to 4 to 5,000. Now, with a restaurant to buy 4 to 5,000 of the raw materials, the ingredients, but there is no customers. I can't be like, I go and buy all the vegetables and fishes, then I throw it away, right? That will be a waste. That is not washing dirty money. That is spending dirty money. Spending dirty money, not worth it, right? I want the money eventually, so I won't waste it. So what are we going to do? We have to do layering. Layering is like I set up the supply chain. I have to set up suppliers. Suppliers for the ingredients must be my own companies as well. But better, the suppliers not a local company. The supplier has to be an overseas company. That will make it more difficult to trace. Like let's say I set up a supplier who can supply the ingredients to local market. So when I make cash sales, I will pay to my suppliers, and the suppliers are located in overseas country. So the auditors also very difficult to check, right? Who are these suppliers? And yeah, the money will be flow to the overseas country. Okay, as a reason for purchases. Then the money go out to overseas country. Repeat the few steps to transfer the money here and there to make the transactions very complex. Then eventually you will find it very difficult to trace where the original money actually come from. So that will be a successful layering process. It makes everything look making sense, right? So lastly, when the money will be coming back eventually, that will be the final step on integration. Integration is the final steps where the dirty money now has been cleaned and you can spend it. You can invest it. Yeah. Now the proceeds of the money laundering already turned into a legitimate form. Okay. Say for example, the company declared dividend and the shareholders will get those dividends. You ask him, where do you find so much money? He say, I invested in the correct company that can distribute so much dividends. That's why I make money. So those money could be the integration process where the layering has been done. So you check, it looks like comes from legitimate source. But how complex behind the story, nobody may know about it until you do a very detailed investigation. So again, 30 months come back, people won't keep it. People will use the money to spend it. They will buy luxury products. They will use it for investment, maybe in properties, maybe in shares. They will just use it and keep them in the form of an asset. They won't keep them as cash because those are original source is still the dirty money. Yeah, very easy to get caught one. Now, I'm just giving you some examples so that we can know how do we stop money laundering. 3 stages. Please remember this for exam purposes. Okay, can accountants be liable or not for money laundering? Yeah, definitely yes. The examiner won't asking this part, so I won't highlight anything. Accountants might be liable when accountants try to advise the client how you should handle the dirty money. So the one who gives advice will be committing an offense. Okay. Advising. Failure to report. When accountants know the client was involved in suspected money laundering, but accountants do not report. That will be an offense. Or making a disclosure to the client. This is tipping off. Like the accountants already know that the client is now suspected for money laundering. He go and inform the client, hey, you are under investigation. Then the client immediately go and destroy the evidence. That will affect the investigation. And who tip off the client will be committing a criminal offense. Yeah, can go jail as well. And lastly, failure to comply with specific regulatory requirements. So in certain countries, there might be laws and regulations to govern money laundering. Yeah, like in Malaysia, for example, Malaysia recognized accounting firm, lawyer firms, casinos, bank. All these are what we so call the reporting institutions. Yeah, you can go to Google and check the website, find Bank Negara Malaysia, reporting institution. You will find, are you a reporting institutions? Okay, so for AML, anti-money laundering. Yeah. So they recognize accounting firm, accountants are one of the reporting institutions. So when we are accountants, we encounter to money laundering, we must obtain sufficient evidence and report. So depending on the local law, depending on the countries, there will be specific regulatory requirements. If we don't comply, then we will commit an offense. Great. So far, the parts that is important for exam will be the three stages of money laundering. Next, policies and procedures. Audit firm needs to do these five things. Needs to implement the policies and procedures in order to protect ourselves from criminal liabilities. Yeah. Audit firms or accounting firms, we don't want to be liable for this kind of offenses. So we have to do something. And what are the things that we have to do? First, appoint MLRO. Who is MLRO? Money Laundering Reporting Officer. This is referring to a senior person inside the audit firm who will be responsible for receiving and evaluating reports of suspected money laundering. For example, an audit firm. One of the audit juniors encounter with suspected money laundering. You think, is it proper that the audit junior go and question the client? Hey, client, are you involved in money laundering? Definitely, that is not the correct way because that will tip off the client. Even the client actually involved in money laundering, he will know you already suspect him involved in this, so he will go and destroy evidence. That will never be the good way. So if audit junior found out suspected money laundering, then he should inform money laundering reporting officer. So the audit firm will have to hire a senior partner to be the MLRO. I mean, small audit firms, we don't have it, right? Maybe small audit firms, there is no need to have MLRO because it's small one. But big audit firm, they have so many engagement, probably it would be better for them to have one MLRO just to receive report of suspected money laundering. And this MLRO will know what to do with suspected money laundering and when they need to report to the relevant authority. Not the audit junior team members to decide, not the senior to decide, but MLRO to decide. Yeah. So we first report to MLRO and consult with this MLRO. Yeah. So that's why I highlight here MLRO will be making reports to the external body and he must be someone who has the relevant authority. He must be a senior partner. Okay? He must be having certain level of seniority. So why this one can help audit firms to avoid money laundering offenses? Okay, let's say one of your client get caught with money laundering, then audit firms are questioned by the court. The court asks audit firm, hey, are you involved in this transaction? Because your client was involved in money laundering and you didn't report. Then audit firm say, I didn't know. Are you sure you didn't know? Don't know. Can it be an excuse? You know, money laundering, off to know, yeah, is considered uh, an offense. You don't have to prove that you know about it, but you ought to know that this is a money laundering. You should be committing an offense. So then audit firm can protect themselves and say, when we encounter with suspected money laundering, we reported to MLRO. MLRO is an expert in our firm who can evaluate the money laundering issues. And we find that there is no such money laundering being suspected. So then audit firm will be very well protect themselves because they have this function. They have done something, yeah, to avoid or to detect money laundering. Number two, okay, besides MLRO, every audit firm should have CDD procedures or KYC. Yeah, in short, you call it CDD, client due diligence, KYC, know your client. We won't go and accept all the clients. Whenever a client asks your audit firm to conduct an audit, doesn't mean that you must accept the client. No. We have to see what is the background of this client, what is the nature of their business, who are the owners, before you accept the client. Why? When you accept a new client, you have to verify the background of the client to see whether any politically exposed persons are actually involved in their management or not. Now, you don't need to memorize the definition for PEPs. These PEPs are basically referring to politicians. So why you want to look for politicians? Because politicians might have the ability to access to the public funds. So automatically it makes them a higher risk of the group of people who might be involved in money laundering. Yeah, politicians, sometimes you may heard of some politicians accepted bribe, corruption, and etc. Okay, they may not spend the money. They pass the money to their relative, to their friends. So if you accept a client, you have to see the owners of the company. Who are the owners? Is it a relative to a politician? If yes, then you have to be more careful because they are indeed of higher risk for money laundering. Okay, so must do CDD procedures. Again, when it comes to the court asks the accounting firm or audit firms, why you didn't realize that your client was involved in money laundering? You say, we have done CDD upon acceptance and we really don't see the risk. That's why we didn't identify. You have done protecting yourself. Yeah. If you don't do that, then most likely you could be liable as well. Yeah. Let me show you an example. HSBC was fined for money laundering and need to pay, but already paid, yeah, 1.92 billion of the fine. This is not a small amount. Hmm. Excuse me. 1.92 billion of the fine. So why HSBC get caught with this? Of course, not the HSBC in Malaysia. It is in overseas because this HSBC bank open a bank account for their client and they didn't realize that the client is using such a bank account for money laundering purposes. This happened, I think, is in Mexico. Yeah. And they found it when they interview the drug lord. Yeah. I mean the one who are very good in selling drug, the drug lord who are sitting in the jail. Okay. They ask them how you sell the drugs and how you wash the dirty money. They say use HSBC bank accounts will do. So then they perform the investigation and find HSBC with this because the bank didn't make didn't do the proper CDD procedures. They never find out what are the backgrounds of the customers and then just help the clients to open the bank account. That's how they was committed an offense. Enhanced record keeping. So you must keep your clients' records up to 5 years period. Yeah, I think you might have studied some Malaysia law. Talk about 7 years, right? That one is Malaysia law, yeah. So this one is international paper. At least you have to keep your clients' documentations for 5 years period. And communication and training. These are referring to audit team members to receive training. It is very important because if the audit team members don't receive training, they may not know how to respond to money laundering offenses. They must know how to respond and what to do when they got suspected money laundering offenses. Let me just put it down here. Knowing knowing how to respond for suspected money laundering. If they don't know how to respond, they go and inform the client, then that will be an issue. Okay. That helps to avoid tipping off offense as well. Or sometimes the junior audit the accounts, they look at the general ledger. Oh, money transfer in, money transferred out to overseas bank account. Hey, it doesn't alert me anything. Right. Actually, that is a layering process. But the juniors never know because there's no training to train them before. This is a money laundering. So they don't aware with the money laundering. Now I know the notes are very long. Probably you can just remember this sentence will do. Okay. And lastly, internal control of the audit firms so that it reduce the risk that the firm exposed to money laundering offenses. Now, normally, right, your good system will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last one is always to make sure the first four is done effectively, right? That's number 5. Internal control to make sure your audit firm, someone will be doing the client due diligence, someone will be giving training to employees. Yeah. So someone go and check these records. Okay. So that will be the internal control of the audit firm to ensure money laundering policies are all done in a proper way. So the last one is to make sure the first four are done effectively. Okay. So in terms of a summary, I would like to give you a mnemonic for crime. Crime stands for CDD, record keeping, internal control to monitor the firm policies, appointment of MLRO, and lastly is to educate. Educate means give sufficient training to the audit team members so that they are aware of the suspected money laundering. So I use the mnemonic crime to remember what are the 5 things that audit firms will have to do in order to avoid themselves being committed in money laundering offenses. Okay, let's do a quick recap. 3 stages of money laundering, and now we also learn about the 5 policies audit firms will have to implement, yeah, in order to avoid money laundering offenses. So I put a star here, something that you will need to study for exam purposes. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Yeah. How do we report suspected money laundering offenses? Okay, I won't read through all the notes, okay, just to let you know the important point. Contents of the internal report. At first, there must be an internal report because the audit team members will let the MLRO to know about the suspected money laundering. Yeah, you won't go and talk to relevant authorities directly because you may not have sufficient evidence. Yeah, not easy to get, yeah, the evidence for money laundering. That's why you have to communicate with your own colleague. I mean, in the same firm, this MLRO, and then he will report to SOCA or FIU. Now, in exam, don't put it so technical. In exam, you just put relevant authority. If you want to know who are SOCA, SOCA is referring to serious uh, organized crime agency. But in exam, no need to write so technical one. Yeah, you just mention relevant authorities will do. Okay. Of course, this one is depending on the countries. Different countries will report to different authorities. So once MLRO thinks that the report is now complete, you have the name of the suspect, how the money has been laundered, where is the laundered money right now, and then you can report to the third party, yeah, which is the relevant authority. But some things audit firms will have to take care is that this suspected money laundering, all right, if I report to third party, will there be any breach of confidentiality or not? Because professional firms like accounting firm, we cannot disclose client information to third party without any approval, without consent from your client. So you need consent from your client in order to report this. Yeah. So we got to make sure that really our evidence is sufficient, yeah, for the money laundering. Then only we can report to them. Now, tipping off offense. Tipping off means you go and tell your client that they are under investigation so that you can let the client have more time to destroy evidence. Yeah, so this one will be a tipping off offense. Okay. Lastly, I would like to talk about the professional duty of confidentiality, that professional accountants are bound by professional duty of confidentiality. Do not report information about your client to any third party, but money laundering will be an exception because money laundering is listed in the local jurisdiction that mentioned. You encounter one, you must report. If you don't report, then you are committing an offense as well. Yeah. So then auditors can override their professional duty because following the law is more important. Yeah. So it depending on the duty to report suspicious money laundering is required by law or not. If yes, then you better report when you encounter one. Summary of this topic: three stages of money laundering. That's something that you have to remember. The 5 policies that audit firms will have to implement. It's called crime. Yeah, audit firms to implement so that audit firms can avoid money laundering offenses. And also the reporting issues. Okay, how do we report to relevant authorities? But report to MLRO first. Okay, so this will be the main areas that past year question might want to ask you. Yeah. We will be trying sample questions, okay, in page number 8. Evaluate the implications for the completion of the audit. Recommend any actions that should be taken by your audit firm. There are two parts of the questions here. First part, talking about what that you need to do comes to the end of the audit when you want to complete the audit. And you have to recommend further actions that your firm is supposed to do based on this scenario. Yeah, 6 marks requirement. Okay, you are the manager responsible for the audit. It's a chain of health and leisure clubs owned and managed by the entrepreneur Phil Smith. The audit is nearing completion. Recognize the total assets of 27 million and profit before tax of 2.2 million. Yeah, cash transfer. Okay, during a review of the cash book, a receipt of 350,000 was identified, which was accompanied by the description BD. The bank statement shows that the following day, a nearly identical amount was transferred into the bank account in a foreign country. When I asked about the financial controller about this, she requested that I speak to Mr. Smith as he has the sole responsibility for cash management. Okay, just stop over here. How do we start with this question? Now, in advanced audit and assurance paper, you are always the manager. You must know who you are. The question won't put you as an audit senior. You are always an audit manager so that you are responsible to review the files. You are here to review the audit working papers. So this audit working paper is done by audit senior. And when you review the working papers, you have to tell what is inside your mind that is relevant to the completion of the audit. You are the manager. Can you just say that the audit is done already? Now you have to read the notes, yeah? I will share with you, okay, what I am supposed to write over here. First, 350,000. Okay. If only $35, should I write any answer? No answer to tell. $35, who cares? Nobody go and money laundering $35. But 350,000 is big, right? That's why it become one of my concern. So I got to prove to my examiner that this amount is big. How to prove? I have to calculate materiality level. That's why the question give me figures such as 27 million for total assets value, profit before tax 2.2 million. These two figures are meant for me to calculate the materiality level. If this amount is material, then as an audit manager, I cannot say no issue. Yeah, we have to do something on this part. And then the amount, nearly identical amount. You see that? Today money come in, tomorrow the monies go out. This one looks like what? Looks like layering process. Then is it possible or not? It is actually a layering process. Then your client is now actually involved in money laundering. You have to be very careful. And the question also mentioned that he is the sole responsible for the cash management. That is indication of the lack of segregation of duty. Cash management usually should supposed to be handled by two person. Okay, one to prepare the transaction, another one to approve the payment and etc. But it's only one person to handle cash management, fraud can happen. So in these questions here, fraud happens by making use of this company as a vehicle for money laundering. Who knows, right? The Phil Smith may be using this company to wash dirty money. So that will be my concern. Okay, when I complete audit, these are the questions that I want to ask. Now, according to Mr. Smith, okay, so the audit senior says something like this. An old friend, Brian, loaned the amount to the company to fund further expansion and the money has been invested until it is needed. Documentary evidence concerning the transaction has been requested from Mr. Smith, but not yet been received. Okay, not yet been received. Now, how am I going to score marks? Okay, first, implication is already done. I think this will be the point. These are the things that I need to consider and recommend further actions. Yeah, meaning to say, what am I supposed to do? Now, what am I supposed to do? Of course, you won't find the answer from the scenario. What you are supposed to do is the response, how you should react to a money laundering. A very first thing to do is the audit senior says, audit documents not yet received. Do you think that this is not making sense? Like the audit senior do the audit halfway, didn't finish, then submit for your review. What is happening right now? Audit senior expect audit manager to finish the work, isn't it? He just put in the notes and say, oh, the documents haven't received. Then what? Put inside the notes like this. Then what? So your further action, okay, is to request audit senior continue to obtain the documents. He hasn't finished the audit work yet. Okay, there's no documents. So continue to request. That's the way. And then you may consider report to MLRO. That's what you need to do. So those knowledge that you have studied from the notes now become useful. Okay, report to MLRO. Yeah, make sure proper record keeping. You have to keep all this record. What he say, the the money is for what? For short-term investment now until it is needed. So I want to look at their production or expansion plan and etc. That whether they really needs the money or not. Okay, so verify to bank statement to confirm what this money actually come in and go out, yeah, from the bank account. So I think you can see that 4 points over here more than enough to score 6 marks requirement because we do have a number of points for the completion. That's how we answer questions. Okay, I will show you the full answer. Now, depending on individual, how are we going to write in the answers? I can use Microsoft Word to write in the answers. Then you can try to follow and train yourself on how to write out the answers by typing because that is what needed in the exam. That's the skills that you need in the exams. Maybe your answer you may not want to put inside the Word document. Maybe you want to put it in some kind of tools like Google Word, yeah, Google Office, or you want to put in Notion. Okay, I think those are the platform that is very nice to use. Yeah, if you want to enter your answers over there so that you can read online anytime, anywhere. Yeah, or you want to put in the traditional way, put it in the word form, also no problem. Yeah. Okay, this is chapter 2. Question number 1. First, must highlight the amount. The amount of 350,000 representing 15.9% of the profit before tax. And I need to divide by 27 million is 1.3%. And it is 1.3% of the total assets, which is material to both statement of profit or loss and statement of financial position. Okay, that will be one professional marks. Yeah, this calculation will gain one professional marks. The calculation and also the comment whether it is material or not. Yeah, don't just calculate the percentage and hang on there. I saw some script says the 350,000 represent 15.9% of the profit before tax, full stop. Then you don't get any marks. Not even half mark, yeah, is zero. So it's such a wastage if you don't write your conclusion. The purpose you do the calculation because you want to tell whether this amount is material or not. Okay. So how much considered material? You may jot down the maturity level in your notes. Material if it is greater than 1% of total assets or revenue, or it is greater than 5% of profit before tax. So you will use this benchmark for materiality calculations. Yeah. Now in that case, it is greater than 1.1% of total assets and 13.9%, right? Yeah, for profit before tax. Definitely the amount 350,000 is material. Okay, so I will see the amount. The amount was received and nearly identical amount is transferred and identical amount is transferred to a foreign bank account, indicating that this is a layering process in money laundering. Then you must explain what is layering. Just give some keywords in order to score better marks. Layering is a process to create a series of transactions so that the origin source of funds become difficult to trace. Okay, that will be another one explanation. Mr. Smith has the sole responsibility in cash management. There is a lack of segregation of duty where Mr. Smith might be using your core is the company name, as a vehicle for money laundering. Yeah, that's why it gives rise to a higher risk. Now, of course, um, yeah. Of course, this could be a genuine transaction as well. Maybe it is really a loan. Yeah, it is also possible that the amount is merely a loan from Brian. So no money laundering is exists. Okay, so that is something that you may highlight. Yeah, no money laundering exists. Yeah, also possible. Okay, then I want to go through with further actions. So when you write answers for further actions, you can always put in a point form. Okay, put it in point form. Like what are you about to do? Yeah. So the first thing to do is to request the audit senior continue to request more supporting documents about the loan of 350,000, such as where the money come from, and etc. Yeah, continue to request more documents. Okay, what else I have been written in the further actions? Yeah, we may consider to report the issues to money laundering reporting officer, MLRO. Then you must explain who is this. MLRO is a senior partner who is responsible to receive and evaluate suspected money laundering report from other audit team members. Yeah. So we have to explain, yeah, who is this MLRO. Okay. I think we have already done with all the 6 marks requirement, including the professional marks. Yeah, I just try to slightly write a little bit more answers so that you have more choices, yeah, to decide which one you want to write. Okay, record keeping and verified to the bank statement. I think verified to bank statement will be more important, yeah. So verify the amount to the bank statements. Confirm the amount 350,000 was transferred in and transferred out to a foreign bank account. And lastly, yeah, record keeping. So audit firms to make sure proper record keeping for the evidence obtained. Okay, keep proper records up to 5 years so that they are able to protect themselves, yeah, if anything gone wrong. Right, I have done with more than 6 marks requirement. This is how we write the answer. Difficult? It is difficult, definitely. Because this question, they didn't even talk about money laundering. Then the examiner expect you to know that this question is actually about money laundering. And the scenario only give you a few points that you can write up to 3 marks requirement only. But the further actions is depending on whether you have studied the notes, like what to MLRO. Yeah, give training to the team members also can. You can write that point because in this case, right, the audit senior seems like doesn't know that this is a money laundering offense. So the audit firm should give more training to the audit team members so that they could be aware this is a money laundering offense in the next audit. Yeah. So I didn't write that point. You may add on for me, in which the audit firm, yeah, should give more training to the auditing members. That will be one of the further action as well. All right. How do I break down the points? I will write 1 mark for each paragraph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here will be around 8 marks requirements. So let's say you have done with this, then we look into our second questions. Second question is more straightforward. Really, it is more straightforward. Okay. And more common way examiner will ask the question will be something like what you see now in question number 2. Explain the stages used in laundering money. So there are the 3 stages. And then you have to comment why Waters Core will be high risk for that 5 marks requirements. And recommend 4 elements for anti-money laundering program that the audit firm should have. Again, you are the manager in Hunt & Co, a firm which offers a range of services to audit and non-audit clients. You have been asked to consider a potential engagement. They have been your audit client for 6 years. The audit strategy says the company have a relatively high risk with money laundering. Number one, their business will collect cash. Yeah, it's a cash-based nature of its activities. And then the customers purchase their cinema tickets in cash, and the company also transfer cash to overseas bank account on a regular basis. So that will make the companies easy to go through the placement process, place the dirty money into the financial systems, okay, through the sales of cinema tickets. And then layering process happens here when they transfer amount to overseas bank account. Yeah. So this question is more like a theory questions. I will write down the answers over here. Very quick one. We can finish the answers for part 1 and part 2. Just for 5 marks and 6 marks requirement. What are the 3 stages? 3 stages of money laundering. Okay. First, placement. Placement is the first stage of money laundering where illegal funds are introduced into the financial system through the cash intensive business. For example, right, because the question also asks you to highlight why water score is high risk. So water score is high risk due to cash based business where dirty monies could be introduced as cash sales of cinema tickets. B. Okay. After placement, yeah, you explain 1 mark, you highlight the example, another 1 mark. So here we have done with 2 marks requirements. The next one will be layering. Okay. Layering includes creation of a series of complex transactions to make the original source of funds become difficult to trace. For example, water score transfer monies to overseas bank account on a regular basis. C. Integration. Integration is the final stage of money laundering where now the dirty money has been cleaned and they can be used for investment and spent. Right, I don't give any example is fine because the questions only ask 5 marks requirements. So you don't have to tell any examples because the case also didn't offer you any examples, yeah, to write for this part. But for the discussion, right, yeah, this integration, uh, you can say that they use the funds, yeah, to invest in more advanced tools for the cinema use or invest in land and building or any other kind of properties as well. Now, the part 2 questions is about 4 elements of anti-money laundering. Yeah, that will be some things to do with the crime. Okay. So I will just jot down the answers over here. For part 2, it is relevant to the 4 policies. So first of all, I would like to write client due diligence. Now, you don't have to write exactly like what is shown inside the notes. Okay, you can just uh wait, money laundering program. Okay, so client due diligence. The first one is CDD. So Hunt and Co is the audit firm. Am I right? Hunt and Co. Yeah, you are an audit manager in Hunt and Co. So Hunt and Co needs to perform client due diligence to obtain an understanding of client's background upon acceptance. So illustrate a bit more like you are going to talk about politically exposed person, yeah? Determine if any politically exposed persons are part of the owners of the entity, which may indicate higher money laundering risk. Okay, that's for client due diligence. And what else? Okay, crime is R stand for record keeping. Yeah, record keeping means Hunt and Co to implement policies where audit firm will keep clients' documents for at least 5 years. Yeah, so that will be enhancing the record keeping. Now, I stand for internal control and monitoring. Okay, now we are talking about the audit firm. Hunt and Co is required to implement proper internal controls to ensure anti-money laundering program has been monitored. Okay, this is to ensure they always comply. Anti-money laundering requirements. Now you can use your own terms to explain. Nothing is wrong if you use your own words, so long as the points are all correct, the points are all making sense, right? So CRIM, M is MLRO. So I would say appointment of MLRO. Now, before I write the short form, I must write the full wordings. Money laundering reporting officer, MLRO. So then you can explain the same thing like what I have done earlier. Yeah. MLRO is a senior partner who will be responsible to receive and evaluate, yeah, the suspected money laundering report and determine whether they should be, okay, MLRO to determine whether needs to report to third party or not. Report suspected money laundering to relevant authorities. So they are the one who make the decisions. Okay. I know there are 5 points that you know, but the questions only ask you to write. So each of the answer you will be getting 1.5 mark. So in total you will get